Grace Kelly, the Hollywood goddess who became a real-life princess. Her story feels like a fairy tale frozen in time. A movie star who traded red carpets for a royal crown. But what about her children? The little prince and princesses who grew up inside Monaco's glittering palace after the tragic death of their mother? Many wonder, did they inherit her grace, her fame, or did they disappear into royal obscurity? Today we uncover the hidden lives of Grace Kelly's three children, Caroline, Albert, and Stephanie, and how their mother's legacy still shapes Monaco's royal story. Act 1. The fairy tale and the tragedy. Before we talk about the children, we must revisit the moment everything changed. Grace Kelly, born in Philadelphia in 1929, was already an Oscar-winning actress before she met Prince Rainier, III of Monaco, in 1955. Their romance captivated the world. The wedding was dubbed the wedding of the century, broadcast to millions and cementing Monaco's image as Europe's glamorous Riviera kingdom. Soon, Grace and Rainier had three children: Princess Caroline in 1957, Prince Albert in 1958, and Princess Stéphanie in 1965. For a while, it truly seemed like a fairy tale. But in 1982, tragedy struck. While driving back from the family's country home, Grace suffered a stroke behind the wheel. Her car plunged off a mountain road. She was only 52. The news shattered Monaco and left her husband and children devastated. Overnight, the three young royals lost their mother and their country's most beloved figure. Act 2. The heir and the burden. For Prince Albert, Grace's only son, her death changed everything. He was just 24, suddenly thrust into the role of Monaco's heir, expected to continue his parents' legacy while mourning privately. Albert inherited not just his father's crown, but his mother's global fame and the media scrutiny that came with it. He became ruler of Monaco in 2005 after Prince Rainier's death. Under his leadership, Monaco modernized. He pushed environmental causes, promoted sustainable development, and strengthened ties with international organizations. Yet the tabloids didn't always focus on his policies. Instead, they fixated on his private life. For years, Albert remained unmarried, leading to rumors and public pressure about succession. He acknowledged two children born out of wedlock before his marriage, but because Monaco's constitution only recognizes legitimate heirs, they could not inherit the throne. Then in 2011, Albert married South African Olympic swimmer Charlene Wittstock in a stunning ceremony. The marriage produced twins Prince Jacques and Princess Gabriella, who are now Monaco's future. Albert's life has been a balancing act between tradition and modernity, duty and privacy. And in many ways, that struggle mirrors his mother's. Grace's elegance defined Monaco's image. Albert's steadiness ensures its survival. He may not live in obscurity, but his calm leadership and occasional controversies reveal a man still living in the shadow of a legend. Act 3. The dutiful daughter. Next, Princess Caroline, Grace Kelly's eldest child, often called the real First Lady of Monaco. When Grace died, Caroline was only 25. She instantly became her father's confidant and her brother's unofficial support system. For decades, she carried out hundreds of royal engagements, often representing Monaco abroad with quiet poise reminiscent of her mother. But behind the regal facade, Caroline's life has been marked by heartbreak. Her first marriage to French banker Philippe Junot ended in divorce after 2 years. Her second marriage to Italian industrialist Stefano Casiraghi seemed truly happy until tragedy struck again. In 1990, Stefano died in a powerboat racing accident at age 30, leaving Caroline a widow with 3 young children. The world saw echoes of Grace's grief repeating itself. Yet Caroline never withdrew from public life. Later, she quietly married Prince Ernst August of Hanover, linking the Grimaldi to one of Europe's oldest royal dynasties. That marriage, too, became complicated, marked by separation and public rumors, but Caroline retained her dignity. Today, she remains a working royal, often appearing beside her brother Albert at official events. At 68, she exudes the same grace and resilience that defined her mother, proof that royal duty doesn't fade, even after decades of personal loss. If Grace Kelly was the heart of Monaco, Princess Caroline became its backbone. Act 4. The rebel. And then there's the youngest Princess Stéphanie. Born into royalty, She grew up adored by the public, the spirited child with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn streak. But losing Grace at just 17 left deep scars. Stéphanie was in the car during the fatal accident, though her exact memory of that day remains guarded. In the years that followed, Stéphanie became the rebel princess. She dabbled in fashion, launched a pop career in the 1980s, and shocked Monaco's traditional court by modeling and performing on stage. Her hit single, Oregon, even topped charts across Europe. But while tabloids mocked her as the wild child of Monaco, her rebellion seemed less about fame and more about escape from grief, expectation, and royal protocol. Her relationships drew headlines: romances with bodyguards, artists, and even a circus performer. She later married Daniel Ducrouet, a former palace guard, and had 2 children, Louis and Pauline. But that union ended in scandal when photos of Ducrouet with another woman were published. Yet again, Stéphanie found herself at the center of tabloid chaos, something her mother, despite her own Hollywood past, had always avoided. Over time, though, Stéphanie found redemption through compassion. She dedicated her life to social causes, particularly helping people affected by HIV and supporting animal welfare programs. Her humanitarian work earned genuine respect from both Monaco's citizens and international organizations. Now in her late 50s, Stéphanie has retreated somewhat from the public eye, focusing on her foundation and her adult children. The rebellious princess has grown into a reflective, grounded woman, perhaps proving that even those who wander furthest from tradition can still honor their roots. Sakyamani, the next generation. So what about Grace Kelly's grandchildren, the new faces of Monaco's royal line? They may not be Hollywood royalty, but they've inherited the camera's love nonetheless. Princess Caroline's eldest son, Andrea Casiraghi, and daughter Charlotte Casiraghi are now fixtures at European fashion events and philanthropic galas. Charlotte, with her unmistakable resemblance to Grace, has become a modern-day style icon, an accomplished equestrian, philosopher, and spokesperson for Chanel. Andrea, meanwhile, keeps a lower profile, focusing on humanitarian work. Caroline's youngest, Pierre Casiraghi, is also active in charity and business, married to Italian journalist Beatrice Borromeo herself, from a noble family and known for her activism. Then there's Princess Stéphanie's children, Louis Ducrouet, who works in sports management, and Pauline Ducrouet, a fashion designer known for her edgy, sustainable brand. Both balance independence with royal tradition, representing a modern, self-made Monaco generation. And of course, at the top of the line of succession are Prince Albert's twins, Prince Jacques and Princess Gabriella, born in 2014. They're still children, but already public favorites, often seen alongside their parents at national celebrations. Each of Grace's grandchildren carries a fragment of her story, elegance, resilience, and a sense of destiny that binds them to Monaco's legacy. They don't live in obscurity, but they also don't chase fame. They've learned from history that the brightest lights can also cast the longest shadows. Act 6, the myth and the memory. Even now, decades after her passing, Grace Kelly's influence lingers everywhere in Monaco. Her foundation continues to fund humanitarian projects. Her dresses, letters, and films remain symbols of timeless beauty. And in the palace halls, her portraits hang as reminders of how one woman transformed a small principality into a global icon. For her children, that memory is both blessing and burden. They live with the knowledge that no matter what they achieve, the world will always compare them to their mother, Nien, the woman who made Monaco magical. But in truth, each of them has honored her in their own way. Albert through leadership, Caroline through service, Stéphanie through empathy. Together, they turn tragedy into resilience, ensuring that Grace's legacy is not just a story of loss, but of continuation. Act 7, where they stand today. So are Grace Kelly's kids living in obscurity? Far from it. They may not dominate Hollywood headlines like their mother once did, but they've built lives that reflect her true spirit, Grace without glamour, dignity without drama. They remain central figures in Monaco's story, yet quietly human in their own. Their lives show that royalty doesn't have to mean perfection sometimes. Survival is the greatest legacy of all. And Grace Kelly once said, "The idea of my life as a fairy tale is itself a fairy tale." She understood that behind every crown lies a person behind every perfect photograph, a complicated heart. Her children have lived those truths. They've stumbled, rebuilt, and carried her name not as a burden, but as a quiet promise. Monaco still glitters, the palace still stands, and somewhere in its marble corridors, the echo of Grace's laughter lingers. Her story didn't end in tragedy. It lives on in her children, her grandchildren, and the enduring grace that made a small kingdom eternal. This was What Happened to Grace Kelly's Kids. Are they living in obscurity?